Hello everybody and welcome back to Gal. Today I have a very special treat for you. It is a new tutorial on this beautifully horrific logo template from Envato Elements, so you guys can check that out. I'll be showing you how to edit and customize it in After Effects, and then we are jumping into Premiere Pro where I'm going to show you lovely sound design techniques using sound effects and music from today's sponsor, Soundstripe. And before we get in, don't get too ahead, I wanted to let you guys know about a new template that I've designed with my lovely little fingers, a text message template. Go to premiergal.com/store and check it out, or you will be cursed. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump on into the tutorial.
Alright, so once you download the template, it's really easy to edit. The first thing you want to do, of course, is replace this logo with your own. I've already imported my logo here. It's the light purple logo here. All you need to do is double click on this composition called Your Logo, double click, and you can drag and drop your logo here inside on top. And then you can hit S on your keyboard to scale this down to fit where the other logo is. And then just simply turn off the eye of the Envato logo. Now, because this is Halloween, I want to change the color of my logo, not to be this kind of pink purple, but a red color. So this is where I'm going to go onto the right and choose Effects and Presets. And I'm going to type in Fill, and I'm going to drag and drop Fill onto my logo. And this will default to a bright red color. I'm going to choose a new color and make it a little bit darker red, and then hit OK. And now if we go back to the final render animation, you can see that it just loads up and it will replace it with your logo, and it kind of adds this kind of grungy texture which comes as part of the template. So it's really easy to edit. The other thing that you can do, let's say you want to change the text here or completely remove it, what you can do is go back to the project tab. You can double click on the text compositions here and you can edit this text to be anything you like. And then you can double click on the wall left side text and you can edit this and change the font if you like. So then going back to the final animation, and now it's good to export. Just go up to File, Export, Add to Render Queue. You can change the output settings and then choose your output location here by double clicking and choosing your location, hit save, and then render. And once this is done rendering, we're going to jump in Premiere. I'm going to show you how you can use Soundstripe's panel in Premiere to download some creepy sound effects and music, how to apply effects and layer sound to create a really cool creepy sound design for this logo intro. So let's jump into Premiere. Alright, so here we are in the final sound design sequence. You can see I have 8 different audio layers here happening, which I will show you how I created. One little tip that's useful, if you hit on this wrench tool, you can expand all the tracks so you can see it better. So you can move this up and you can get a nice look at all of the different tracks that are happening. Another tip when you start adding in audio layers is you can right click on them and rename them to something that you would remember or with a collaborator so they can easily recognize what this track is. So I named this ambience. So let me just play this back for you. Let me just minimize this and let's go ahead and play this back and you can listen to all the different sounds I added. I also added a little moment here at the end. Usually in, horror films, they have a moment of darkness and then So I added that in. I'll show you how I did that as well. So let's go ahead and let's go to the version without any sound. So what I had to do was just imagine by playing this back what sort of sounds were going on. So when this first drops, there's probably a crash, there's probably some chain noise, something like something rattling, right? And then there's this little monster shadow that's happening. So I imagine something slimy coming out. We need some sort of slimy, squishy sound. And then there's some flickering that's happening here. So some static and electricity. And then probably some ambience, and then some sort of like creepy laugh, and then of course some music I added. And then for this bit I added an explosion and just some ambience as well, some dark spooky ambience. So what I did is I used a service called Soundstripe. I use them all the time for unlimited music for any video project I'm working on, and they just released a new panel so you can actually search for sound effects and music and license it all inside of Premiere Pro. And I made a whole video on how to use this panel and set it up. So I'll put a card up in this video so you guys can check it out. So all I did was, I was like, okay, I want to get these different sounds. So all I did was I searched for these sound effects under the SFX here. And so one of the effects that I downloaded was a heavy plate crash. So I just searched heavy plate. And then what you can do is you can scroll down, and this was the effect that I used. Let me just play this. So that's the sound I use for when my logo comes crashing down. And all I did was hit license, and I choose the name of the project and the project type. You can license it for any type of project. This is a tutorial, and then you import the sound effects. So what I did was I just searched their library for music and sound effects for everything that I wanted to use, and it automatically imports here in your project panel. And then what I did was I created a folder and I just put all the sound effects here, and then I started to build the design. Right? So the first thing that happens here, let me just move the panel over. Oh, and one thing about the panel too, if you guys are interested in Soundstripe, you can use my code GAL10 to get 10% off your subscription, which is pretty cool. So let's start here with the crash. So this is coming crashing down. So I had some sort of like glass crash, like a smash. So this is the sound I used in the beginning. And to set an out point, just hit O, and it will only use that part of the sound. So just drag audio only down into audio track layer 1. So now we have the crash. And then what we need is that heavy plate sound as well. So let's find that. I believe I called it heavy plate crash. So let's drag this down as well, just next to each other. You can kind of use this toolbar down here to zoom in and out so you have more precision. So I'm just going to actually layer this a bit. So I'm going to bring this down and layer this like so. A little bit over like that. Sounds good. And also there's a chain drop, and I found a chain drop sound right here. So I'm going to layer that as well, just by dragging that down. I'm going to move it over so it's more in the beginning. Cool. Now it's starting to come to life. Another thing that happens with the cable is kind of like a squeaky sound. So I downloaded the squeaky cable sound. It's really creepy. And I just had this down on audio track layer 4. It can be on any layer, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to drag and drop this down here. And so let's see how it sounds. So another thing that's going on is the squishy kind of sound of the shadow monster. So let's go ahead and let's find this one. It's called Squishy Liquid. It's really creepy. And then we're just going to find the moment here when the monster comes out, which is right about here. And let's just drag this over. And then to duplicate this, since we want it to go on longer, I just hit the Alt or the Option key on my keyboard, click and drag and let go. And so now we have 2 instances. And then can see they go back inside here. So we need to extend this just a little bit. I'm gonna click Alt Option and duplicate it again. And then I'm just going to edit this by rolling this back and hitting C to cut this here, and then hitting V to go back to the selection tool, selecting the excess here and hitting delete, and then just move this over. So that's done. Another thing that's going on is the electricity going on and off. So if we mute all of these, you can see that there's some flashing happening. Right here is when it really starts. So I downloaded this electricity. We double click that. I hit out to just drag this audio, and then I just line it up. Right here is when it starts. So right here, let's unmute this. And then there's a little bit more, so I'm just going to take the second instant and hit I here. For this in point, I'm going to hit I, and then for the out point, I'm going to hit O. And then it's just going to drag this section. I'm going to drag and drop this down. And then we just want it to stop right when this stops. So right about there, we want it to stop right there. So now it looks like this. Perfect. And so then another thing that I had in the background was kind of an evil laugh. So I downloaded this evil laugh here. It's like a demon laugh. So let me just unmute these now, and let's drag the evil laugh here. And I kind of had him laughing when it went black, so you just hear that as well. So let's just play this back to see how it sounds. So the beginning feels very full, but there is some stuff missing here. We want to keep the squeaky cable going, so let's duplicate that. Let's hit Alt Option, and let's bring that over, and we can just roll this edit back to end when the clip ends. And we also want to add in some ambience throughout the whole thing, so that way it's not completely silent in the background. So I downloaded this track. Where did it go? Ambience. It's kind of like a Halloween kind of dark noise. So what I'm going to do is just drag this audio down, so that way this is playing the entire time. So let's go ahead and play it back and see how it sounds. So it looks pretty good. One other thing that we can do to kind of make it a little bit more creepy at the end is we can actually roll back the edit a little bit, because it's actually quite long. We don't need it to go this long. So you can just roll this edit back to be a little bit shorter. And then we can add a cool transition that's from Film Impact. I really love their transitions. You guys should check them out. I'll put a link in the description. It's basically like it's called a glitch, impact glitch transition. So if you drag and drop that to the end, it just kind of glitches out like that, which is pretty cool. And what we can add here is another electricity sound. So we can take this electricity sound, click the Alt Option key, drag and drop it there, and it just kind of adds a little bit of extra noise. Oh. Like that. And we can shorten this, so we can zoom in and we can make it a little bit shorter, so it happens faster, and just roll that in. Nice. So we can then move the squeaky cable in, and we can have the laugh here as well. We can move this over just a tad. It's a lot of playing around with it. Now, lastly, I wanted to add some music to this bit. So what I did was I downloaded this track, and it sounds like this. And I downloaded this through the Soundstripe Halloween playlist. So right now, because it's that time of season, they usually make seasonal playlists. And I went to the Halloween one, and it was The Joker's Wild. So I just played this, and I was like, this is perfect. I want to license it. So then I just dragged and dropped it down here. And then one other thing that I did is I added a cool effect to make this track sound even creepier. I went and I searched for an effect called Pitch Shifter, and I double clicked to apply it to the music, and you can see it's here. Let me mute the other tracks so you can actually hear the difference. So with it off, this is what it sounds like. Now I'm going to turn it on and hit edit, and from here you can choose a preset called the Dark Lord. Now let me just play this back so you can hear what it sounds like. So you can see it just sounds much darker. Now, if there was somebody talking here, it would really sound like the Dark Lord, because all it's doing is taking down that tonal shift, right, of that person talking. It's just taking it down, so it's much, deeper sound. And you can play around with this. You can increase this so it's not quite as dark and heavy. So it just kind of makes it a little bit more creepy and distorted. And you can play around with this. There's an angry gerbil. So if you want that to be kind of like a high pitched noise, you'll see that it just moves it up to 12 semitones versus Dark Lord, it's all the way the opposite, right? Because it's much lower, deeper sound. So I'll just make it around -5, and I think that sounds good. So then what I did was I just cut this at this point. So I cut this, and I cut this, and I deleted the excess, and I just add a little cross dissolve, a default transition at the end there, just so it nicely fades out. And then the laugh is here, so let's go ahead and let's unmute that. And then here is where I had this come back in, and I had an explosion sound, and I just drag and drop the explosion here. And I just move this over. To get more precision, to have this explosion start right at this clip, you can hit the Command key on a Mac or Control key on a PC, and then just hit the left arrow key to move this over. Move it over just one more bit there. Perfect. And I think I downloaded one other ambience track. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Asylum. Yes, so I just took this and I put it here as well, and then just cut it off right here. So it was just this laugh. And I might shift it over to when that laugh stops. So let's play back. And you'll see I also added the glitch effect that I added to the end of this clip here from before, the impact glitch effect. So I can add another static electricity here. So I'm gonna basically copy this by hitting the Alt Option key again, dragging and dropping it here, and just extending this out. So when that starts to glitch, you hear the electricity. There we go. And we can click Shift and select these two effects, right click and apply default transitions as well so it fades out. And then the next step is just to use the Essential Sound panel to make sure all of the sound is leveled. To open up the Essential Sound panel, just go to Window and go to Essential Sound. And this is really cool. You can select the music track that you want to level out and make sure it is at broadcast standard and sounds good. Just select that, then choose the audio type. So this is music. I'm going to choose music. And now let me just make this bigger so you can see what happens. So when I select auto match, you can see that the waveform drops. It just matches the loudness to a broadcast standard. That's all it does by doing this. And if you want to, you can increase the clip volume a bit just by that. And then the next thing you can do is ambience. So we have two ambient tracks here. We have this Asylum and the ambience here. So what we can do is we can click Shift and select the Asylum, so it's two clips, and then we can select ambience and auto match it. And you can add some reverb. Let's do large room ambience, and you can increase the loudness too if you want it to be a little bit louder as well. And then the next thing to do is select all of the sound effects. So we have all of them here, so what you can do is just lasso and select all of them here, and then just hit Shift and unselect Asylum because we already did that one. And now we have all the sound effects selected. So then select Sound Effects and hit Auto Match. And what this did was just make sure that all the levels were correct. And then of course you can add some reverb if you want and play around with them at the individual level as well, even increase the clip volume a bit as well. So now let's play it back when all of the audio is now corrected.
So I hope that you guys enjoyed that viciously long, horrific tutorial. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, you will be cursed. And a special spell to all of my lovely patrons. We've reached over 50, so thank you guys so much for my support so I can start melding and creating more magical tutorials for you on the channel. Go to patreon.com/premiergal and check it out. I will see you guys next time.